If the Packers have to choose between more or less, I think they're going to choose less of more. Grossi Posse Packer Nation, welcome to the episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I am your host, Tom Grossi, and today we're gonna take a look at the question that has been around since the beginning of this preseason, even beginning of camp, and it's what the Packers should do with J'Mon Moore. And going into this, I was trying so hard to find a path that I could be like, hey, if he goes on this path, he's gonna make the 53-man roster this week. And I can't find it. There's like one way I can see him making this roster, and it's gonna be quite the long shot. But J'Mon Moore, I mean, He's a guy who, obviously, we had a lot of aspirations coming in last year. He was our highest drafted wide receiver last year during the draft. He was coming out of the 4th round. He's the highest out of that school since Jeremy Maclin for a wide receiver. And obviously, we picked up a lot of receivers last year, right? We got Scantling, we got EQ, we got J'Mon Moore. Kumaro, obviously not drafted, but came over from the Bengals. So it's kind of like a replenishment of our wide receiver core and depth, considering that we have guys like Randall Cobb and Jordy Nelson leaving. And so now you have J'Mon Moore, who has come into last year and was just immediately just riddled with drops. Had a huge drop problem, didn't play a whole lot last year, was very open and transparent about his issues last year, saying, I'm not making any excuses for my rookie year. It happened. I'm going to get better. And unfortunately, during this preseason, he really hasn't been able to live up to that promise. And on top of that, you know, he's had a couple good days at camp, but it's not just a matter of, okay, J'Mon Moore hasn't lived up to his potential yet. It's that I don't think the Packers can wait for that potential, signing him to the 53, considering there are so many other receivers that are transitioning their successes at practice and training camp onto the field, or at least in preseason. And so we've gotten to this point where the wide receiver pool is so deep, which is a great thing, that we may not be able to keep our 4th rounder from last year. And so if you take a look at J'Mon Moore, in 2018, he played in 12 games. He didn't start any of them, though. The entire season just had 2 receptions for 15 yards, and this was out of 3 targets, so he wasn't even targeted very much either. He returned 4 kickoffs for 102 yards, and so not making waves in the special teams, though. However, I think he had a 37-yard return, which was the highest that they did last year in their special teams, because we didn't have guys like Trevor Davis. Our special teams was a disaster last year. And the reason why we picked him so high, and why there are people who are defending Moore and saying, hey, we got to give him a shot, is because his college numbers were great. He played in 49 games. He had 33 starts, 158 receptions, almost 2,500 yards at 24.77, had 21 touchdowns. And you look at what's happened this season, because there was a lot of hype for Moore, and this preseason has only had 3 receptions for 12 yards, 1 touchdown, and has only been targeted 5 times. And the game that, of course, sticks out to me, the one that you had the first game of the preseason where he's just dropping easy balls and then caught one in the end zone, spiking it down, and it was just like this sense of like relief, like, okay, like now we got it going, and then that's it. And obviously in the preseason, there are guys who are making the most of their opportunity. Trevor Davis having a phenomenal night last week. You have guys like Shepard and Lazard who are coming in and blowing it up. And you have guys from last year that were drafted after Moore that are making more of an impact. So for example, MVS last year had 38 receptions for 581 yards and 2 touchdowns, played in 16 games, started in 10. Had a great beginning and middle of the season, then started kind of falling apart near the end. But Rodgers has been very vocal in supporting MVS and saying that he has completely changed. He's a different kind of player, and he's going to obviously be a staple of this offense. Then you have EQ, who obviously just got injured, only 22 years old, had 21 receptions last year, 328 yards, 0 touchdowns, but played in 12 games and started in 7. And even Kumaro, who only played in 5 games and started in 2, had 8 receptions, 103 yards, and a touchdown, and Rodgers has been very vocal about him as well. Now, I mean, the one sliver of hope that I think he has, right? Like, this could potentially be a Davante Adams-like scenario, in that years ago, Davante Adams did not have, I think it was his second season, had a terrible second season. All Packers fans were saying to cut him, and now he is our number 1 wide receiver. This is only his second year with us, talking about Moore. And so there is a ton of time for him to get better. There is the potential there. But, and the big but is, I don't know if he's worth signing to the 53. If you can keep him to a practice squad, great. If he clears the waivers, great. I don't know if another team, would snatch him up, though. I mean, there's potential that if he doesn't get signed to the 53, he's going to be signing with another team and making their 53. But right now, you have Jamon Moore, who's 24 years old. You have Alan Lazard and Shepard, who are both 23 years old, who have both looked better in camp and in preseason this year. And if there's anyone out of those 3 who are going to make the team, I think you have to give it to Shepard. I put Trevor Davis on top of Moore because he has that return ability. But if you want to potentially get like, okay, put Shepard in instead of Davis for whatever reason, he makes the 53. Now, EQ, who just got injured in the last preseason game against the Raiders, he is obviously going to be out. I would potentially see him going on IR with a designation to return. We can only do that with 2 players, and he'd be able to come back after week 8. But he still needs to be signed to the 53-man roster, meaning that Jamon Moore would have to clear waivers in order for us to sign him up to the 53 until EQ comes back. And so, if a best case scenario I see right now for Jamon Moore is that he makes the practice squad and we could potentially build him up there. But, I don't know if he's going to be very happy about that, obviously, but I also don't know if another team is not going to snatch him up. So I think right now the time with Jamon Moore in Green Bay is closely coming to an end. And unless someone else gets hurt, unless another wide receiver goes down for an extended period of time, I don't see him making the 53. And I would like to see, again, what he's able to do and to have those flashes that he did from college. But right now, I wouldn't pick him over Shepard or Lazard or Trevor Davis. And, Davis, obviously, we have a lot of high hopes for him. And I feel like we have this a lot. Obviously didn't play last year, but this is a make or break year for Trevor Davis, so this could go either way. And so if Jamon Moore stays on the practice squad, gets really good, and Davis disappoints again, then you could always sign him back up. But, I don't see a path unless someone gets injured, or there's a Christmas miracle that occurs sometime this week, and it's only August, so we're still pretty far away from Kris Kringle. But right at this moment, I don't see Jamon Moore making the roster. And you can see it even like when we're doing all these 53-man rosters are starting to be predicted. I don't think I've seen one yet that has shown Jamon Moore on it. And I feel like he's just kind of been eclipsed just from the amount of competition there is at wide receiver and just because of his lack of production. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you think it's worth holding on to him for that potential, or do you think it's time to cut our losses and move on, or maybe even just sign him to the practice squad? Let me know what you think down in the comments below. You can always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com or at TomGrossiComedy and all the social media you see down below. Check out podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, and Spotify and YouTube and all that great stuff. And you can also check out patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy. A big shout out and thank you to all my patrons over there. It's the easiest way to support me, so thank you for that. Tomorrow we'll be back with a 53-man roster prediction, which took hours upon hours to come up with yesterday, but we're it's going to be interesting. And then next week we got football, real football. So we're almost there. But thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.